Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another crypto market update. My name is Brendan from Crypto 101, and the crypto markets continue to see record levels of volatility and choppy price action. However, out of the depths of this move, we are not only seeing some really big buy orders come through, we're also seeing some key changes being proposed to the crypto landscape as we know it. So what I want to do here is break down everything that you need to know, explain everything that is going on, and talk about how it can actually impact the crypto space moving forward. So if that sounds interesting, all that we ask is that you hit the like button, you hit the subscribe button, and if you really like the content, then maybe check out some of those links in the description down below. Now, without further ado, let's talk about one of the big things that is going to be impacting price, and that is this squeeze that we have been seeing on Bitcoin. Now, most people would look at this and they'd say, hey, Brendan, this doesn't really look like a whole big squeeze. It kind of looks like we've just been trending downwards over here, right? We've been seeing Bitcoin form these lower highs on the way down and these lower lows on the way down. However, what we have seen here is that as the volatility has actually slowed down from the extreme amount that we've had in recent weeks, as this has happened, we've started to see a short little pattern of higher lows here on the Bitcoin chart as pressure is building into this 20-day moving average, which is the blue line, and this 200-day moving average, which is the yellow line. So we have the 20-day and the 200-day moving average both acting as resistance here on Bitcoin. Now, this is significant because we were previously using the 200-day moving average right around 84K as a support level here, and now we're starting to use it as resistance. Same thing goes with the 20-day moving average. This one, ever since the initial breakdown back in the beginning of February, this has been resistance for a pretty extended period of time, about a month and a half now. So what we're getting here inside this squeeze is Bitcoin's price consolidating and putting pressure into both the 20 and 200-day moving averages. And as this range is getting tighter and tighter and tighter, that's where the squeeze really starts to show its effects. And I think that as this breaks, again, either to the upside, we could go back to the low $90,000 range, and to the downside, we could see Bitcoin fall back into maybe the mid to low 70,000s. So there's potential here for Bitcoin to go both ways, as it is in a little bit of no man's land. However, the trend would say, hey, maybe we need one more flush out in order to get a really nice market bottom. And I know a lot of people have been looking for a retest of this previous all-time high, which is just a little bit lower on the Bitcoin chart. Now, the consensus here is that, hey, if we do get a deeper move, people are going to be really eager to buy this. And this is going to be what a lot of people are saying could be the last big downside move for Bitcoin. And people basically are theorizing that, hey, we could maybe form a bottom over here around this previous all-time high, around this previous consolidation range. And that would be in line with what we've seen happen on a lot of other charts before, including what we've seen happen on Bitcoin and previous pullbacks as well. Now, beyond this, there's a lot of really big things that are happening behind the scenes. In fact, we're already starting to see buyers get quite excited about this, as the US spot Bitcoin ETFs post their largest daily net inflows in nearly 6 weeks' time, accumulating to almost $300 million in a single day of inflows. Now, it's not just the people around the ETFs that are saying, hey, Bitcoin's at a fire sale-like price in the low 80,000s, high 70,000s, because we're also seeing MicroStrategy come out and say, hey, we're going to be buying an additional 130 Bitcoin at an average price of $82,900. So they're coming out here and acquiring what I think is over $10 million worth of Bitcoin. They're not alone. Metaplanet, a company over in Japan who has pretty much copied an identical strategy and approach to what MicroStrategy has been doing. They're just located over in Japan. They're saying, hey, we're going to actually do the same thing. We're going to be buying another $12.5 million worth of BTC. And what this comes out to be is actually more than what we saw with MicroStrategy. They're going to be buying 150 Bitcoin, raising their total holdings to around 3,200. So what this means is that MicroStrategy just bought 130 BTC, Metaplanet bought another 150 BTC, and then the ETFs are seeing hundreds of millions of dollars in net inflows and net buyers, which is a really big deal. So when we're looking at this and saying, hey, what could happen over here? What's the general thought? Well, the big money, the smart money, they're saying, hey, Bitcoin is at a fire sale down here. We are buying millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of BTC at a time. And they all seem to be really comfortable with it. Now, does that mean that we can't go lower? No. But they do think that an $80,000 or a $70,000 Bitcoin is a bargain price, which is why we're seeing all of these big whales come in here and accumulating Bitcoin at these prices. Because they're saying, hey, if we do go down a little bit more, it still won't matter because the potential upside could be dwarfed by whatever kind of downside risk that we see. And that's why we're seeing so many people comfortable buying over here. Now, there's also some really big changes that are being proposed. People are coming in here and they're saying, well, can we get rid of like one big crypto act? And we've talked about it here on the channel before, but it's going to be SAB 121. Now, for people who are not familiar, this is an old policy that says, hey, cryptocurrencies from like financial providers, they need to be essentially labeled as liabilities. So what this means in simple terms is that if you have something labeled as a liability at a financial firm, you need to hold about 100% in cash equivalents for any crypto that you hold. Let's break it down even more. If you hold $1 billion worth of BTC, that means that you also need to set aside $1 billion worth of cash to offset the $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, which is labeled as a liability on your balance sheet. Now, I don't know about you, but if I want to go through and even just buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, I don't want to also have to set aside another $1,000, right? I don't want to have to set aside $2,000 to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. That's a little bit frustrating. Now you can begin to understand how these financial firms were feeling and why they were not bringing crypto and Bitcoin onto their balance sheets en masse. Because they were going to say, okay, well, if we are going to do this and we are going to, hold $1 billion or $1 million worth of Bitcoin at our bank or whatever it may be, we don't want to have to set aside all that cash as well. So that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. So now what we're going to be seeing is the potential that this law could be going away here soon. So that is something that's in the works. Again, this is just published about 11 hours ago, but the SEC chair, Mark, and I'm going to butcher his last name, but the SEC chair is talking about, hey, we are looking at possibly withdrawing this, changing the rule and making it more crypto friendly, which has been a big kind of change in process over the last couple of months, especially with what we've seen here in recent years. So if this happens, I think it acts as a big win for crypto. And I think we could see a lot of other financial players, different from just the ETF providers, come in here and do a lot of buying for Bitcoin as well. Again, this has been a huge barrier to entry for people and financial firms that have wanted to bring Bitcoin onto their balance sheet, but kind of saw it as a pain to do so, especially when they are putting essentially 100% of their exposure equivalent over into cash, which is just going to be sitting there. So yeah, when we're looking at the crypto markets across the board over here, again, a little bit of a pullback. We're continuing to see some choppy price action. But out of this choppiness, again, out of this dip, I think we really need to zoom out. What's happening with the Bitcoin ETFs? Well, hundreds of millions of dollars in buying is happening. What's happening with some of these companies, these whales like Metaplanet and MicroStrategy? Well, they're buying tens of millions of dollars worth hundreds of Bitcoins as well. The SEC is also saying, hey, we want to make crypto and Bitcoin more friendly. And when we look at this, there really is just a lot of positive stuff that's happening here in the background. And when people look at why Bitcoin is falling in the first place, well, it really has nothing to do with Bitcoin, and it actually has everything to do with the traditional financial markets. What's going to happen at FOMC this week? What's going to happen with Jerome Powell and rate cuts? What's going to happen with tariffs? What's going to happen with X, Y, and Z, and you fill in the blank? And none of those things really have anything to do directly with Bitcoin. And so what we're seeing here is a little bit of indirect exposure or collateral damage with how Bitcoin could be getting negatively impacted just from it being a more risk-on asset. So what I think will happen here is that as everything starts to solve itself out, as everything starts to calm down and there's a lot less fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market, I think Bitcoin has the potential to be one of the leading assets in terms of recovery. And I think that we can also see some altcoins turn around as there's all sorts of catalysts on that end as well. So I hope all of you enjoyed this market update. Of course, there's a lot going on here in the world of crypto. We make market updates just like this one every single week. And if you want to get more video content, you can head over to the Crypto 101 podcast YouTube channel as well, where we have all sorts of podcasts, market updates, tutorials, you name it. We got a lot going on over there. So I hope all of you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next video. Now, if you are new here, I just want to give you one more plug. We have a couple of cool links in the description down below for you. You can get plugged into some really great communities that we run. For example, we have one called Crypt Nation. I'm one of the lead analysts over there, and it's a community of thousands of like-minded individuals where you can talk about what you're interested in, news articles that you're seeing, trade opportunities, and really whatever comes to your mind. So if you want to get plugged into that, and if you want to get plugged in to anything else, check out some of those links in the description down below, and we'll see all of you at the same time, same place next week.